I'm Caitlin. From DMAC, proud 7 years. Stand up! Stand up! Everyone! Stand up! Let's go. I like it. That's right. Thank you. Appreciate that. People call me Keeks. Actually, fun fact, for the Florida trip, Jake Elfrost did not know my name was Caitlin. And so he proceeded to go around the food court saying, "Who's Caitlin Brehm? Who's Caitlin Brehm?" And I was like, "Jake, that's me." So I'm Keeks. Let's just pray. That's great. God, I thank you for tonight, Lord. Thank you that you save lives, God. And I thank you that you're real, that it's not just knowledge that we have, but we get to know you. And I'm just so thankful for that, Lord. Pray these things in your name. Amen. So I was born in Kansas, how old am I? 21 years ago. I was born in Kansas 21 years ago. Moved here when I was 4, and I lived in Ankeny, Iowa. I went to Ankeny Centennial, and for the most part growing up, I'm so thankful. I had all my physical needs met. Pretty much I could ask my parents for anything and I could get it, which I didn't realize how thankful I should be. Even today, it's I'm of the richest in the world, having all the food, all of clothes and home and water, and so I really have nothing to complain about how I grew up. When I was 7, my parents decided to become small business owners, and so they were really successful actually, and it was really nice to be able to be a part of something that's outside of yourself. And it was my siblings and I and my aunts and uncles kind of helped, and so that was really nice. But eventually it got to the point where it was they had 11 small businesses, and so it was just so much stress in our family that I didn't know how, it very much became an employer family. It was not familial, is that the word? It wasn't we were brother and sister. It was oh, these are my coworkers, and my parents are my bosses. And so that was really hard growing up, and I didn't know my identity. I put my identity in what I did and how well I did at business, because I was just an employee. And so that was really hard. Me and my sister, I have a sister, an older brother, and a younger brother, and none of us were believers. We went to church probably 15 or 20 times maybe, ever. And church was the first thing to go when my parents bought these businesses, and so it was very much an idol of okay, we're gonna work as hard as we can and get as much as we can, and we're gonna rule the world. Not that exaggerated, but you get what I mean. It was just, let's go for it. And so leading up to that, my sister, she was really in the party scene, but then she got plugged into DMAC Campus Fellowship. She's 5 years older than me, and so I was 13 at the time, she was 18, and she became a Christian, and I was it was a flip of a switch. She was just all of a sudden this Jesus freak. She wasn't going out to the bars anymore, she was going to church, and I was dang, okay. And she got some backlash from my family, and so I was I'm not associating with her, this is bad, I'm not gonna tell her that I'm going to church with her, my parents are gonna yell at me too, I don't know, I don't wanna go. And so she reached out to me for a year, and it was really interesting how the Lord ordained that, because I had to associate with her because I had to work with her. And so it was every time we would go to church, not church, every time we would go to work, I would be in the passenger seat, and she would just automatically tell me the verse of the day, or hey, you want to know about Jesus? Just random things. And so I was literally, Brittany, no, stop. And that happened for a year. She was very persistent, and she was a very zealous, bold Christian. She was very much I remember one time I had an argument with one of my friends, and she was telling me, she's I think you should do this. And I was Brittany, no, you don't understand. And then eventually she was well, Keeks, maybe you're convicted. And I was heck no, getting out of this car, no thank you. And so it was she was very persistent, but she was also eventually the Lord brought my heart to a point of willing to hear what she was trying to tell me, because there is truth in what she was saying. I was convicted, I had so much sin. And so she reached out to me for a year. There was no pushback. I had one of the hardest hearts. She would be there's college students there, you're 13, and I'm no, I don't want to go. And um, yeah, she loved me very well. But it got to the point where we went on a trip to Dubuque, Iowa, 3-hour drive. And we were like driving, and we listened to Ed Sheeran Multiply, that album, the whole way there, 3 hours. It was awful. And then we went back, and we came back, and it was so awkward. It was like we weren't good friends. We just fought all the time. And I don't know why, but we had no audacity to turn on the radio. That just didn't cross our minds. So we were literally just sitting alone in silence for 10 minutes. And so I was in the passenger seat, she was driving, and she turns to me, and she's like, "Do you want to know the gospel?" It was I could see it in her eyes, looking back, I can see, she's like, "I have 3 hours with this person. I'm going to share the gospel." And so I immediately, no words, put my headphones in my ears, turn out the window, and, touch my iPod, I'm putting on music. And I don't look at her, but she keeps talking for 3 hours. Literally, she could not share more, probably. And, she didn't know this, but I had not turned on my music, and I was just playing that I was listening to music just to get her to shut up. But I was actually listening for 3 hours, and we pulled in the driveway, and I remember there was a point where I had to get out of the car, but my heart sank because I was like, if she's right, I am screwed. It was this is bad news for me. And so a couple weeks go by, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go to church. I'm just going to give this Christian thing a shot. So I come to church, very newly 14, and people loved me so well. It was great. Met a lot of good people, but there was still something off, and it was that I did not have the Holy Spirit. I was not a Christian, because Christians do go to church, but that's not what makes you a Christian. And so the Lord intervened, good thing, and I started to serve. I don't know why. I thought I was just a good person, I think. So I was like, I'm gonna go serve people. Let's go change the world, I guess. And so I started helping with these refugees, and I loved their culture. I loved just learning new things. And so I ended up getting connected with this family. And this family, the dad had passed away, and so they were really hurting. They didn't know English, and so I was like, me and Brittany, we were like, okay, we're both going to church. Let's go do good things. Let's go reach out to this family. And so we did childcare for the family and whatnot. And eventually, because I didn't have good motives, I started, I don't know what you call it nowadays, talking to the older brother of this family, and really manipulated him and lied to him. And it was not honoring to the Lord or just being a good friend at all. And eventually, for 6 months, I was literally just feeding off of attention. That's all I wanted. And literally one time, I went to call him, and he didn't answer, and I have not heard from him since for 7 years. I don't even know where he is anymore. And it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. To see someone for 6 months, and then all of a sudden have no contact with him. It was wild. But I didn't have a way to escape from my guilt. It was I know that I was guilty, but I could not get forgiveness from someone. I could not get it. And it would be so weird to get it, go track this person down just so I can get forgiveness. I don't know. And so it was very clear that I was guilty, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I felt I was too bad for God's grace. Oh, there's no way he could forgive me, whatever. And so he pursued me so much the next couple weeks after that of I was really wrestling with okay, what do I do now? And I had no Bible background. Literally during church, I just colored. I did not listen, and we didn't go to church. And so I was what do I do? And that's where God intervened. And it was the most beautiful words. He said, I know that you can't get forgiveness from him, but my forgiveness is what matters. So accept it. It's open for you to have. And so I was okay. Literally, those movies where they're crying on their knees, with their hands in the air, Jesus, I need you. That was that's what I picture. I don't know if that's actually how glorious it was, but you get the point. That's what happened. And so that's the night I became a Christian. I was 15 years old. I was a sophomore in high school. And so I've been with DMAC ever since. 3 years in high school, 2 years as a student, 2 years as a resident. God's been really faithful. So that's my story. That's all I have. If you have any questions, give me a holler. Don't slide in my DMs, please. That's all I have. Goodbye.